Hi, this is Mika. And before we answer the question, did God send the coronavirus, COVID 19? There are some things that we need to address first. The first thing we're going to take a look at is what is a coronavirus. According to the World Health Organization, coronaviruses are a large family of viruses which may cause illness in animals or humans. In humans, a number of coronaviruses are known to cause respiratory infections, ranging from the common cold to more severe diseases such as Middle East Respiratory Syndrome and severe acute respiratory syndrome. The most recently discovered coronavirus causes coronavirus disease COVID 19. The coronavirus COVID-19 is being identified as a disease. In other words, a plague, a highly infectious epidemic disease, especially one with a high rate of fatality, a pestilence. A pestilence is any epidemic outbreak of a deadly and highly infectious disease, such as a plague. Now, the original Hebrew word for plague in this sense is negah, meaning a blow or a deathly stroke or a stroke that causes severe illness, and it's actually metaphorical of a disease or a wound. Now, the second thing I'd like to address is the issue of gods. There are those who believe that there are many gods and worship almost anything as a god. And there are those who believe there is only one God who governs over the universe, the earth, and the ways of man. Now, I want to be clear about something. I personally believe in one God, the Almighty One, known as the Eternal One. He is spoken of in the Bible, the First Testament, as the God of Israel. Please take note that I said one, the Almighty One. One as in one, not two or three or four. He is one, non-pluralistic. He is the same God that the great prophet Moses communed with and worshipped, as well as the patriarchal fathers, Abraham, Isaac, Noah, Job, Elijah, Elisha, and the famous King David. Behold, the Eternal One, our God, is one Lord. The word one is non-pluralistic. The original Hebrew word is echad, meaning one in number, alone. It is the same word used in the First Testament for making reference to one man, or one witness, or one lamb, or when he took one rib from Adam. The Eternal One declared, I am the Eternal One that maketh all things, that stretcheth forth the heavens alone, that spreadeth abroad the earth by myself. That word alone means being without anyone or anything else, being without equal. He declares clearly that he alone made all things and that he alone governs the earth, which we will see later through additional passages from Scripture. In Isaiah 40:25, he asked the inhabitants of the earth, to whom will you liken me, or shall I be equal? In Isaiah 45:5, he states clearly, I am the Eternal One. There is none else. There is no God beside me. Listen to me. Keep in mind, this being is eternal. He is not restricted by time in any sense, and his knowledge is unfathomable. He sees beyond time to the end of time, and he declares, where do you see a God? There is no other God. I know not any. Not in the past, not now, not ever. He knows. Think of it. He knows everything. He is ruling as God alone. Are you understanding this? Are you grasping the declarations of this powerful being? And he asks, who is like me? Who is my equal? To whom will you compare me that we may be alike? Now, even though he answered this question with a resounding no one, the Christian community steps forth and says, we know. We know who is like you. We know who compares to you and is your equal. Jesus. Not only that, some of us agree that he is you. Heavens, no. Let's take a look at this. Let's put this on the table. You have this being declaring that no one is like him, and then his creation has the audacity to announce there is. They say, yes, Jesus is like unto you, and they worship him. Well, who is Jesus? A man. And I do want to note that not once did Jesus himself declare to actually be the God of Israel. If you find a scripture where he directly claims this, please let me know. It is only drawn from assumptions, not derived from the factual knowledge or evidence of the scriptures that he said it, but by faulty reasoning and misconceptions. Jesus stated over 90 times in the Gospels that he was the Son of Man. It's so simple, and yet confusion abounds. Deception. A man, in pure simple facts, is an adult male human, mankind. What do we know of humans? They are created beings, created by the Creator, who has stated clearly that it is an abomination to worship what was created. 2. A son of man, in pure simple facts, is a male human offspring, a male descendant. The original Greek language in reference to Son of Man is Weos Anthropos, which means the son or descendant of a man. It is the same verbiage within the documented genealogy, Weos Abraham or Weos David, when speaking of the sons or descendants of Abraham or David. Now, of course, this issue goes so much deeper, and you should invest in the time to learn about this. Why is this significant that Jesus directly made this claim to be the Son of Man? Because it is in direct opposition to the identity of the Eternal One. In Numbers 23:19, it states that the God of Israel, the Eternal One, is not a man, neither the Son of Man. Listen to me. This information is crucially important when determining the answer to our question, did God send the coronaviruses? So it is established that we are making reference to the God of Israel, the Eternal One, and we are briefly looking at the divided claims of Christianity about Jesus either being the Son of God, being equal to God, or being God himself. Please keep in mind, the God of Israel is known as the Eternal One because he was not created and he will not die. No part of him will ever die, ever. No part of him dies. For a life force to die reveals that its existence is contingent upon something else in order to survive or to stay alive, such as air, water, food. These are limitations restricting created beings. The Eternal One is self-existent. Ponder that for a moment. Jesus died. His life ended on the cross. The Eternal One never dies. There is no interruption in his life. He is life. In Jesus' hours before dying, he cried out to the Eternal One to spare his life, to save him. Do you not know that the Eternal One is the sustainer of life? And he pleads with no man or being to spare his life, because he is the very essence of life. For those claiming that Jesus is the Eternal One, how do you explain Jesus crying out to the Eternal One for help? Was he calling out to himself? I want you to imagine something. You're walking by a park and you notice a man sitting on the bench, terribly distressed and weeping, and you ask, "What's the matter? What's troubling you?" And he answers, "I'm about to die. I've been sentenced to death." And he looked to the heavens and called out, "Dear God, help me, save me, spare me." And another man walks up and points at him and announces, "You are God." What would you think? What would you say? One, If he were God, he wouldn't die. 2, the most obvious, who did he lift his eyes to and call out to for help? You must know, the Eternal One lifts his eyes to no one. He does not ask for help. He is the help. In Deuteronomy 32 and 39, the Eternal One states, "See now that I, even I, am He, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand." In knowing this, Jesus cried out to him in acknowledgement. If Jesus recognized and acknowledged this truth in the final hours of his life, why wouldn't you? Now, in light of the points briefly presented, we can now take a deeper look into the question, did God send the coronavirus, COVID-19? For those of you who worship Jesus, search the scriptures and answer me this. Is there any documentation within the New Testament scriptures noting or implying that Jesus ever sent a plague? Was it his nature to do so? Is it within his character to send sickness and disease? Was this a signature mark of Jesus? Ask yourself, what was Jesus known for? Why, healing. He healed people. In Matthew 8:16 through 17, it says, "When the evening came, they brought unto him those that were possessed with devils, and he cast out the spirits with his word, and healed all that were sick. He preached the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. He was moved with compassion. Great multitudes followed him, and he healed them all. He was moved with compassion, and he healed their sick." In Matthew 15 and 30, it says, "Great multitudes came unto him, having with them those that were lame, blind, dumb, maimed, and many others, and cast them down at Jesus' feet, and he healed them. The whole multitude sought to touch him, for there went virtue out of him, and healed them all." These are only a few noted incidents from numerous accounts of Jesus going about healing, as he claimed it was the work of his Father. Jesus became known as the great healer. And so, where do you find anywhere in the New Testament scriptures that he afflicted mankind with a plague, a disease? You won't, because he didn't. And so if your response was no, God did not send the coronavirus, COVID-19, a big part of that is who you worship as God. If you worship Jesus as God, you are right. He would never do this. There is no evidence to support that it was within Jesus' character to send plagues. But I'm curious, how many of you truly know the God of Israel, the Eternal One? What does the First Testament scriptures speak of him? Is it his nature? Is it within his character to send plagues, fatal diseases and sicknesses? Let's examine the scriptures. In the very first book, in Genesis, chapter 12, verse 17, it says, "And the Eternal One plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues, because of Sarai, Abram's wife." In Exodus 11, verse 1, "The Eternal One said unto Moses, Yet will I bring one plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt." For those who know, the book of Exodus documents a conglomeration of plagues sent directly from the God of Israel to afflict the Egyptians. As I noted earlier, the original Hebrew word for plague is negah, meaning a blow or a death stroke is being hit with a severe disease or a wound, and sometimes fatal. It is also referred to in the English translation of Scripture as a stripe, such as in Psalm 89, verse 32, where the Eternal One says, Then will I visit their transgression with the rod, and their iniquity with stripes, or plagues. Throughout the beginning books of the Bible, there are numerous accounts in which the God of Israel struck the Israelites with a number of plagues. Why? Well, it was because of their disobedience and rebellion against His commandments. And sometimes it was a warning. There are numerous texts throughout the First Testament documenting these accounts, evidence that it is the Eternal One that afflicts the men of the earth with plagues. Is it in His nature? Is it within His character to send plagues? Was this a signature mark of His? Yes. And so now I ask the question, did the God of Israel, the Eternal One, send the coronavirus, COVID-19? And based upon the scriptures, yes, He did. There are those who do not understand the sovereignty of the Eternal One. Even if it was created in a lab, as some speculate, it is the Creator who has constructed the circumstances in such a way as to inflict mankind. Think, if you can, of all the pieces that needed to come into play in order for this to happen. In Proverbs 21:1, it says, "The king's heart is in the hand of the Eternal One, as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever He will." It is at His mercy and His command. The Eternal One sent a pestilence upon Israel from the morning even to the time appointed. He directly sent it. It was His doing. It does not speak of how or by what means He constructed it, but He sent it. And it says, "There died of the people from Dan to Beersheba 70,000 men." The Eternal One sent a pestilence upon Israel. I want to bring you back to the scripture in Deuteronomy 32:39. "See now that I, even I am He, and there is no God with me. I kill, and I make alive. I wound, and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. I am the Eternal One. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. It is at His command that this plague will cease from the land, when it has fulfilled His purpose whereunto He has sent it."